So welcome to week 9. I hope you enjoyed this last section. I got into a little bit of a discussion / debate with some of you on your thoughts about Islam. It's clear that right now, due to current politics especially, but we see going back for a while, that there's always been this debate about the Islamic world versus the Christian or the Western world. And what we're seeing now in modern times is an unprecedented amount of Muslims in the Western world. And this has led to a lot of tensions. And what we're really seeing is the rise of the far right in Europe, and populism in America is based on a lot of a kind of fear of Islam. And all I just kind of want to say on that is, keep educating yourself. I think some people might think that I taught a politically correct version of Islam, and I understand what that means. And the text itself, in our textbook, I think they left out a lot of variety. Let's say when we did a discussion about thought of religion and war. Well, there's a lot of Christians that aren't necessarily rooted in the ideas of St. Augustine. And Muslims have also had various ways of looking at the concept of religious warfare. Jihad literally means struggle, but it certainly is meant in the case of a kind of war in defense of Islam. And so, it means both. So jihad can mean, if you're a married man and you're desiring another man's wife, internally you would want to have a jihad against your fleshly desires and do the right thing, not act on that, or, you'd want to mute that. That would be a jihad. And, the United States invading Iraq or Ethiopia invading Somalia, a lot of Muslims could justify and say, well, Muslim brothers and sisters have been attacked, and we have a right to have a holy jihad against invaders. So that does come up into it as well. Ultimately, I just want to say, I hope that you realize that on the internet, there is a lot of real information about Islam that is also tainted. So I don't know if you saw one of the debates I had. I talked about, the Bible, for example, actually has a lot of violent content in it, and says a lot of things that a lot of Christians and Jews would be uncomfortable with. I would argue more violent by far than anything I've read in the Quran. Now, if I made a YouTube video and I just read all the passages where, the Bible actually tells ancient Israel to kill all the children of Canaan, the babies included, that's in there. I have to tell you this, it's in there. It makes Christianity and Judaism look really bad. But then a lot of Christians and Jews, this is not what's really a part of their spirituality. Again, I'm named Joshua. My parents didn't name me after him because he was a warrior. They named me after him because they saw he was someone directed by God to do certain things. And so I just want us to allow for each other. I just want us to remind us that there is a serious set of tensions being built up right now between the Muslim community and the Western world, as if they're not compatible. And I would argue that they are. There are Muslims trying to argue that they are not, and there are non-Muslims who are trying to argue that they are not. And there's a lot of people in between who really just want to hang out with their family and friends and have a good life and pray to the God that they were raised, to the religion that they were raised with, as a means of getting through the day. Okay, so that's my little spiel on that. I've said this before. I'm moving on now. Now we are moving on to another interesting topic. This week, you'll notice things are a little bit different. I just changed the paper to be optional for extra credit. I think you'll like that, right? I have a lot more video notes. There are more points to be added for that, 30. So keep in mind, you don't have a required paper. You do have more video notes, though. And there are more points for the notes. So yes, you have to watch all the videos this week. And it's a lot to take in. But I think you'll also find it interesting. I developed also these 3 lectures on the Vikings that I think you'll have, that you will enjoy. I just want to also say something on that in the context of current politics. So, right now, not only did I grow up in a Christian environment, but in the last several years, well, mainly this last year, I took a lot of interest in my ethnic heritage as well. So my mother, her last name is Swedish, and my great-grandparents came from Sweden to Turlock, California. And I find Scandinavian history very interesting, which is also linked to German history and some of the pre-Christian Anglo-Saxon peoples coming into the British Isles. And so I bought this Mjolnir. This is Thor's hammer. And this is a depiction coming from what they found in archaeological records in Sweden. And I really just enjoyed studying Norse mythology quite a bit. And I think that you'll see, my explanations for it are interesting, how the Christian world and the pagan world kind of converge. And I have the optional videos for you to watch if you wanted to on the Icelandic sagas and Beowulf poem in this week section. Now, what I also discovered is that a massive amount of white nationalists are wearing these right now. So sometimes it's a little of a problem. It's a little problematic for me to deal with. So sometimes I walk around here where I live, and I'll get some dude to be like, "Hey," they point at my Mjolnir, and they're like, and I'm looking at them, and I have the impression that they're giving me the white power thing, and I'm just like, okay, that's not what I was into this for. And sometimes I actually don't want to wear it for that reason. But on the other hand, I also don't like the fact that any political group feels that they can take the symbol of heritage and then transform it into something that is hateful towards another group of people. But that's the world we live in right now. And interestingly enough, for all of my interest in Islam, most people who are wearing this are also militantly anti-Islamic, because part of the kind of neo-paganist white nationalism is the idea that Judaism, Christianity, and Islam have polluted the earth, and that Germanic pre-Christian, pre-Roman religion is our indigenous religion, and that these other things are like foreign religions that have ruined us, and and so they take it into the kind of realm of hate, so that bothers me. But then there's a lot of people who are actually embracing it that are not. But I want you to just be aware that that is a thing. That's an issue out there. But then even groups who actually officially practice kind of neo-paganism, European paganism, there are these battles between those who simply embrace the spirituality of their ancient ancestors and kind of reinvent it in a modern way, and those who are doing that, but also through a nationalist, racial, identitarian, identity politics kind of thing. So the same goes with Slavic paganism and with Celtic pagans as well that exist right now. So yeah, just wanted to let you know. I think that's all I have to say. If you have any questions, feel free to give me a call, and have a good week.